Hello, everybody. This is Mr. U.S. History. And as you can see, this is our current presidential map right now. So, the most populous states are California, Texas, Florida, and New York. And by 2052, this will most likely be our map. Now, in this map, we're going to be ignoring factors such as climate change because those are just really unpredictable. I'm just going to be looking at current trends and the temperature and stuff like that to determine what states people will be leaving and what states people will be entering. So a very striking thing you can see there is in this difference is that states such as New York, Illinois, Michigan, California, and Pennsylvania have all lost population, mostly due to stuff like low wages, which in response has caused labor strikes, as well as a growing cost of living, especially in California and New York, not to mention the lack of jobs in the area, especially around the Rust Belt states such as Illinois, Michigan, and New York, as well as Pennsylvania, mostly because of the fact that many jobs across the seas in China are what leading and are growing trade relations with other countries are what's causing jobs there to just deteriorate, as well as natural disasters. However, states such as Florida, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and Texas have all been growing in population mostly because of the booming economy, as well as the fact that there is a lot of economic opportunity and there are plenty of jobs in the region, mostly because the state does not rely quite as much on industry. It doesn't rely that much on labor, and in fact, it's not really that impacted by free trade and lowering tariffs. So that's another reason. Not to mention the fact that there's a very nice climate there, as well as the fact that it's generally very cheap. And as you can see, the main region that is damaged and loses population is the Rust Belt, which is this whole region over here. Mostly these Rust Belt states include New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, parts of Maryland, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, parts of Missouri, Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, and Minnesota. So the Rust Belt is a very big region of the United States. And as you can see, there are also many people moving out of other states, such as California, because it's just too expensive to live there. And a reason why people are leaving the Rust Belt is, again, because of the lack of jobs. And as you can see, we're going to be now looking at the politics in a 2052 presidential election, which is exactly going to be around 30 years from now. Just a little bit over 30 years from now. And right now, as you can see, the Republican Party will most likely gain support by then, mostly because of its shift towards populism, particularly around issues like illegal immigration, as well as its opposition to big business, which right now isn't really that much of a strong element of the party, but it could very well become one in the future, as well as the fact that many Latinos and other minority groups are shifting more and more towards the Republican Party. And the interesting thing about this is that Latinos will all be concentrated in three major swing states. Arizona, or four actually: Nevada, Arizona, Texas, and Florida. And by the way, Puerto Rico will most likely be a state by then, but there's no way that Puerto Rico is going to go red, by the way, just so you know. And anyway, these states, which have a very high Hispanic population, despite the growing number of people moving into the states and the overall leftward shift, due to the rightward shift of Hispanics, it's unlikely that these states will go blue by a resounding margin then. And an example of this is the fact that Hispanics voted by 72% of Hispanics in 2012 voted for Barack Obama, while just 59% voted for Joe Biden, according to exit polls. And by 2050, this margin could be much, much lower, and Republicans can even gain a majority of the Hispanic vote, or maybe even get it close, like just within 1%. However, the factor which will most likely help Democrats is the fact that more and more suburban voters are shifting towards the Democratic Party. However, suburban voters are mostly they're mostly toss-ups. It depends on the type of year. And if you look into 2052, let's just say in 2052, there is the political climate. There is absolutely no political climate. You have a incumbent who's leaving office with a mild approval rating, just up by 1% on average. So really, it's just a completely neutral year. Let's just assume that. As well as the fact that we have two very generic Republicans, and we have a very generic Republican and a very generic Democrat. Like, for example, let's just say the two candidates are Jon Ossoff for the Democrats and Josh Hawley for the Republicans. And these two guys are pretty much a generic, will probably be generic by the time of 2052. Josh Hawley right now is seen as one of the most conservative senators around, but I'm pretty sure that by 2052 he'll be average. And same with Jon Ossoff. And as you can see, this will be an electoral map. These are all the safe blue states, and these are all the safe red states. Yeah, I used orange because for some reason I couldn't find red, but let's just keep it like this. As you can see, Iowa and Ohio, I believe, will be very safe for Republicans then. Very solid. Same with, will be very solid, mostly due to the fact that because of the industrial decline in the states and the growing shift, it'll most likely be solid. As well as the fact that Virginia, Colorado, and New Mexico will most likely all go blue, as well as Florida will most likely go red, as well as Wisconsin, because of the growing shifts in all of these states. Now, the remaining states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. North Carolina has always been a traditionally red state, even though polls have generally said that North Carolina would go blue in 2020 on both the Senate and presidential level. It was wrong. And in Michigan and Pennsylvania, same thing. These two states are really shifting towards the right recently, mostly because of the lack of jobs in the region and the Republicans' growing shift towards populism. And Nevada will most likely go blue. It's been a historic blue state, and given the fact that most of Nevada, especially around the Las Vegas area, is organized labor, I can't really expect in a generic year for it to go red, even 30 years from now. And Nevada's also been trending blue recently. Now, these remaining four states will be the four toss-ups, which will decide the election: Minnesota, Arizona, Texas, and Georgia. Now, I think that Minnesota and Georgia will both go blue. Minnesota is somewhat of a left populist kind of state. They generally support Democrats who are more populistic, and even in 2016 they voted for Hillary Clinton, who is not by any means a populist Democrat. Georgia will most likely go blue because of growing trends in the area, as well as the Atlanta region, most likely. Arizona, on the other hand, will go red. A major reason why it went blue is mostly because of that McCain base in the state that ultimately voted for Biden in 2020. However, by 2052, most of this support will be gone because these older generations of McCain voters in Arizona are dying out, and by then most of these younger Republican voters won't have those same ties to the Republican establishment that they have now. So most likely it will go red. As for the state of Texas, this state is going to go red, mostly because of the Republicans' growing strength with Hispanic voters, as well as the fact a lot of the people who are moving into Texas are conservatives, by the way, make no mistake. There is a misconception that Texas will go blue recently because of these new rivals. Yes, it will get closer. I do not expect it to be a solid red state, but many of these arrivals are conservatives, especially from states like California. So there you go. Overall, the Republican Party would win in a very generic year. I may be fully wrong about this. I could be very wrong about this. For example, Texas could go blue. I'm not saying it can't. Same with Arizona. But, however, this is just my opinion. And please make sure to leave your opinion in the chat below. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel. And yeah.